Hi, this is Carol and we're cutting it up with Carol once again. This episode will cover vinyl. We have craft vinyl and heat transfer vinyl that we will be showing how to do those two types of vinyls. And we know that there are a lot of people who have problems out there with their vinyl, so watch and hopefully you'll learn something and have more success with your vinyl. So today we're going to be playing with vinyl, and I have a couple of different types of vinyl on the table, and we'll go through each type separately. So one of the first types that people use, and probably one of the more common ones, is just your plain vinyl that can be adhered to anything, basically. I went through a phase where I put my name on everything so that I would have everything would be known that it was mine. And so that's the kind of vinyl that you would want to use that with. So this is just a basic craft vinyl. And what you can tell a craft vinyl because it has a paper backing. And hopefully it has a smooth, kind of almost waxy backing, because you want it to go with the back to the mat, but you don't want the paper to stick to the mat. You want to be able to peel it off. So if you don't have that kind of waxy backing to your craft vinyl, then you're going to want to reverse and put the good side down. Otherwise, as you can see, we all do this. I don't know if the camera will pick that up, but there's a piece of paper. So that's not going anywhere. I've tried to scrub it off and it's there. So we all do it. It's just something that we do try to avoid. So this one does have a nice slick paper backing, and so I'm just going to go ahead and put it onto my mat. And if my mat isn't sticky enough, which this one pretty much is, but you can use the Scan and Cut washi tape, which is made specifically for the Scan and Cut mats. It's very cheap. It's cheaper than most of your washi tapes. And what's good about this as opposed to using the painter's tape is that this is not going to leave a residue, whereas the painter's tape does leave a slight residue. And then the Scotch tape, sometimes you don't get it off. So Scotch tape was not a good idea. But I'm just going to do my corners there to make sure that my vinyl is stuck. And I'm going to power up my machine here. Go ahead and load it. Okay, let's see, let's just pick out a pattern. So let me go slower, in the Eiffel Tower and tree menu are further menus of all kinds of already pre-made motifs, and you can experiment with those. And let's see, let's do these little fish. And go ahead and click OK. And in here you can change the height and the width if you want to. But I'm just going to click OK. Then it does give you two different files for doing this. What I want to do is the A, the one that's colored. The other one is more for placement, but you can also do it for drawing. So if I wanted to put a pen in my machine, it would draw out the fish. But I just want to do the fish. And I'm going to put that in. Click that OK and hit set. And the pattern already knows that I do need two of those. So it immediately does two of them. And I'm going to hit OK. Nope, I'm not. Sorry. I want to scan. So I'm going to scan my mat so that I know where to place my fish so it gets onto the vinyl. Now with the craft vinyl, you do not unless the pattern that you're taking your images from has been reversed. You do not need to reverse when you're doing the craft vinyl, because the way that you see it here is the way that it's going to be stuck on whatever it is. So we don't need to reverse it. If you're scanning in a pattern from a company and it says on the pattern that things have been reversed, then you would need to reverse it back to its original if you're doing craft vinyl. And that's different if we're doing other kinds of vinyls, which we will get to in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and just play with this a little bit. I'm going to edit an object edit, and I'm going to reverse this guy so I can save on a little bit of my vinyl. Get those a little bit closer. Okay, so now I've got my images up, and I'm going to say OK, and OK, and please select, and I want to cut them. And as I have said a lot of times, this is one of the most important screens that you want to take a second to look at, because on here it says half cut is off. And when you're working with vinyl, no matter what vinyl you're working with, you want to do a half cut. And a half cut means that a full cut on this second generation machine is 2 millimeters. That's the maximum. Each cut is a millimeter. So I don't want to do a whole cut because that's going to cut my transfer sheet as well. So I want to do a half cut, which means it'll only go to 1/2 millimeter. So in order to do that, I go to my wrench and I scroll down to the second page, and here it says half cut and it says off. I just want to put on and then hit OK. And now we see on the half cut is on. And your speed and your pressure, the pressure, that's the wonderful thing about the DX machines, is we don't have to worry about the pressure because it automatically does it for us. And the speed is just the speed that you want. I find 3 a pretty comfortable speed, so mine just kind of defaults to that, and that's fine. Okay, if you want to do a test, you can go ahead and hit test, and then it'll give you the options of your shapes. Actually the circle is good because it has those, it will test all of the parts of your blade to make sure that your blade is sharp enough. So I'm going to go OK, and then I'm going to pull that little guy up here. You do not have to test things though. Again, that's the beauty of these auto machines. But if you do want to, this is how you do it. And then I'm going to say start, and then it is going to cut the test. I can see this up, and I can see that it did indeed cut it beautifully. And I still have my backing sheet on, which is exactly what I want. And I want to be able to remove what I've cut, but have the backing still on. So it is perfectly set, and we are good to go with our fish. And we have fish. Pull this off. So let's see if I can go cut. So I'm going to teach you in a second a way to avoid having to do what I'm just doing now. So then you want to weed out your project. Oops, I just ripped that one. Sorry about that, guys. I think I need a new blade. So that's one way you can tell if you need a new blade, is if it is not cutting. I should be able to just tear this off and have it come off. There you go. Okay, so there's my little fish. Now, in order to, so we're gonna pause just a moment here while I go get a new blade. All right, welcome back. Let's see, I've got my new blade in, and we're gonna load this up again. So I want to teach you something that not very many people know about, and it makes weeding life so much easier. So let's go ahead and, where did I find those? Where did I find the fish? Well, let's do another fish. Let's do the dolphin. Okay. Set. Okay. So I'm going to scan my mat. So again, I know where my vinyl is, and I can place my object. So most of us are fairly aware of, the cost of materials, and we don't want to waste. So rather than picking up the sheet like I did before and cutting it, we don't have to do those kinds of things anymore, but then I also won't have to mess with any of that space, and I can keep this piece of vinyl for something else. So once you go to, let's see, okay, and please select and cut, go back to the wrench, and on the wrench, let's see, it's going to be on the second page, so I can again make sure that I'm on half cut. And then there's this thing called a weeding box, and this weeding box will actually create a box around what I'm cutting so that it makes weeding just a cinch. And you can adjust the size and how much space in between the box line and what your object is, but I just leave it at default because it knows what it's doing. So I'm going to say weeding box on, and unfortunately this is not like the half cut. Once I press the on for the half cut, everything that I run through until I change it, it'll stay on the half cut. The weeding box is not that case. So every time I do a new scan, I have to go in and make sure that the weeding box is on because it'll default back to the off. So that's a pain, but it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and say okay. And now you can see that I have a box around my dolphin. And I'm going to go ahead and start, and you'll see what happens. Okay, so it cut the little box around, and I'm just going to grab my little box. Let's see an end here. There it goes. And there we go. And I'm just going to pull. So I did definitely need a new blade, but I'm also thinking that it's the quality of this vinyl. So, we'll talk about that in a second. So you can see how it created this weeding box where all I have to do is grab the corner of the weeding box and pull, and all of this stays intact so that I can use it later. And somewhere in here I have an eyeball. There we go. So, yes, I did need a new blade because it made it substantially easier to weed. But the other part of it is that not all vinyls are created equal. And if you're having particular issues with a vinyl, it may just be an inferior vinyl, straight out. So you do want to make sure that you experiment with and find vinyls that you like and that are cooperative, and that the scan and cut machine likes, and your life will be made so much easier. Because I know there's a lot of comments on the internet with pictures of vinyl just being completely shredded, and some of that could be pressure issues, some of it could be blade issues, some of it could simply be that the vinyl is not a quality vinyl. So it should be very, very simple to weed it off and have your little image. So that is craft vinyl. And with the craft vinyl, the other comment I'm going to say is that other times people have said that the craft scan and cut doesn't do detailed, delicate work, and it does. Again, it's probably the quality of your craft vinyl. You can see that with, this is a fairly detailed and delicate pattern, and the ScanNCut did absolutely fabulously on it, as well as this one down here. So it's false that the ScanNCut will not cut vinyl in a delicate way and very detailed. It just is a matter of whether your machine is set correctly, you have a good blade, that your vinyl is sticking well to your mat, and that you've got everything that, playing together nicely, and it will do what you want it to do. These are amazing machines. So that is craft vinyl. Now on to the fun vinyl, and that is the heat transfer vinyl. The heat transfer vinyl, you can tell because it's going to have a dull and a shiny side. There's no paper on it. This is also, the vinyl itself. And on the back here is a glue. And on the front is a carrier sheet. So you can see that this is a clear plastic carrier sheet, quite heavy actually on the better vinyl qualities, and then your vinyl, which is also quite thick. This is actually a Brother product. Brother's come out with fabulous vinyls that are nice and thick and are really just butter to cut. And you can see that we've got some fun little things here. And this one you can just, I think you can even tell on the camera that this is, look how much whippier this is than this. This one still works, but it's just not as good a quality, and you will have more difficulty. So quality does matter, and everything that we do handmade, quality matters. So this is a heat transfer vinyl, and with the heat transfer vinyl, you want to put the good side down and stick it well to your mat. And again, I'm going to go ahead, just for insurance sake, I'm going to go ahead and tape my edges down. Just for a second. And you might want to take your brayer to it and get a nice stickiness here and get it down. So on the heat transfer vinyl, the most important thing that you need to remember is that everything needs to be reversed. Because whereas before with the craft vinyl, you're just putting it up. With the heat transfer vinyl, you're putting it up. So you have to have everything reversed, because this is actually the back and not the front, whereas this is the front. So everything on heat transfer vinyl has to be reversed. So we're going to go home and we're going to pick a different pattern, go back to our Eiffel Tower. Let's pick, what do we want to do? And all these are two colored. I'm not ready to do two colored. Oh, let's do the pair of glasses. Okay, so I'm going to hit OK and OK and set. And I'm going to scan my mat. And we're going to move my glasses. And the glasses, it may not matter because they're a little bit symmetrical, but just because we want to develop good habits, I do want to reverse it. So the reverse button is the one with the triangles that are facing each other. One is filled in and the other one isn't. And just press that, and once that is depressed, it lights up, and so you know that you've reversed it. And I'm going to go ahead and OK. And let me move that over just a little bit. And OK. And OK. And select and cut. I'm I'm still on my half cut, but I do want to do my weeding box. So I'm going to go down to page 2, weeding box on, and OK, and start. Okay, now we have sometimes on these backgrounds it's very hard to see. Okay, there we go. There. You can see the difference in the quality of the vinyls. That's the way it's supposed to go. And on the second one. So, and then when you put it on your item, you would take this over to your t-shirt or your tote or whatever, and you would cut all of this out so that you just have the carrier sheet and not all the other things, and take it over and apply heat to it according to the manufacturer's instructions. We do have a heat press at the shop that you are welcome to use when you are here, but with something like this, which is small, it can be easily done with your iron. So you want to make sure you take all that other stuff off, or it will adhere to your t-shirt, and you have your cute little finished product. So that is the secret behind vinyl.
Owl's Nest Quilters, because you love to